Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Karen Davidson. I'm the Data and Communications Consultant in the Office of Teaching and Learning, and I've been working with course codes and course setup for about 8 years. And I apologize, I've got my nice light on, but my camera's making me look dark, so sorry about that. Basically, today I'm just going to go over some of the basic elements of courses and course setup and answer any questions that you all might have. So first of all, I just want to talk about why it's important for our course data to be really accurate. There's a lot of different, reporting systems and data systems that this course data feeds into and is important to. I've listed a bunch of them here. LEAD, our KEYS program, all of our advanced coursework scholarships, civil rights, federal reporting, our Kentucky longitudinal data system, and then several different areas on the school report card. So basically, we just really want to make sure that all of the information in your course setup is accurate so that all of these other places have accuracy as well. There are two data standards related to course setup. One is just a general course data standard, and then we also have one for dual credit courses because those have some extra elements that are very important to be filled out correctly. So I just put the links in there to those, and a lot of what I'll go over today is just kind of giving you a sense of what some of those things are on the data standard. And I would really strongly encourage you to, pull those up and bookmark them if you're someone that's using course a lot and really get familiar with those data standards. So this is kind of my general advice that I always give people when I'm, answering questions about how to set up courses. It always should match what's actually happening in the classroom or a virtual classroom. However the students are learning, that's what the course should look like in Infinite Campus. So let's take a look at some of the different data elements. All courses will need to have a state course code. And so basically with that, we just recommend that you choose the state code that has the description that most closely matches the content of the course that the students are taking. We have a new system this year. It's the Searchable State Course Codes database within the new KSIS system. It's got a lot of improved functionality, and we're really pleased with that. Anytime you're looking for a state course code, not sure what to use, go there first. And if you still can't find what you're looking for, you can always feel free to reach out to me or at coursecodes@education.ky.gov. There is a type field in the course setup. Not all courses need a type. Most courses, in fact, will probably have a blank type. But if it's an online or virtual course, there is an online virtual type. Coming new this fall is an attendance-based online virtual course, and that is, type, and that is not quite an Infinite Campus yet, but just want to flag for everyone, if you feel that you have courses that will be using this, and maybe if you're in a district that has a new A8 classification full-time virtual school, those are some of the key places where people might be using that type. And actually, it's like basically taking seat time attendance, but with a virtual course, you would need to select this type on that course. And then there's also a performance type for performance-based credit courses. There is a difficulty level, and again, for most courses, this would be blank. However, if you have an advanced coursework course that you're setting up, you would need to set what kind of advanced coursework course that is. So there's your 4 options for those. And this is extremely critical that this gets set so that students can receive their advanced coursework scholarships. There's also a teaching method. Definitions for these can be found on the data standard. And I'll just recall that guiding principle again, that proper course setup should match what's actually happening as closely as possible. So if a teacher is teaching at the front of a class, it's the kids are with the teacher every day, that's direct instruction. Most courses are going to be set up like that. However, there is a whole, range of other, oops, I'm trying to get a cursor showing and I clicked it forward. There's a whole other range of options that might be applicable. So just familiarize yourself with the definitions for those. And I do want to point out that we have a new teaching method for 2023 that is available in Infinite Campus right now. We've added a blended instruction teaching method. So that may be cases where students are both engaging with a digital online provider, digital learning provider platform, but also working with the teacher, whether that's coming in person or having synchronous sessions with a teacher online. Either way that works, the 20 blended instruction can be utilized there. In terms of instructional settings, same thing, all clear definitions can be found on the data standard. And again, it should match what's actually happening for the course. So if it's a Spanish immersion school and students are taking their reading and writing course in a Spanish immersion setting, it should have the 11 instructional setting on it. Again, most of our courses will likely be on-site classroom. However, online, the offsite CTE, offsite college, some of these things are becoming more and more popular. There is an attendance checkbox, and there are some specific rules about how that should be related with the types. So, I've got a note here, any course that is using attendance for ADA funding should have that checkbox checked. However, it cannot be checked if the course uses the type online virtual, and it must be checked if the type is attendance-based online virtual. And again, that's all clearly stated in the data standard. Josh Whitlow is our contact for funding questions. If you have questions about how to set up your course correctly to make sure that your attendance and funding is all as it should be, he can help out with that. And then Ben Maynard is our contact for online and virtual school questions. So if you have questions about that new type, attendance-based online virtual, or the new teaching method, 20 blended instruction, he's your guy there. I do want to focus in on dual credit a little bit. As I mentioned earlier, these courses have some unique elements that are critically important that they be set up correctly. Starting with what course code to use. So we have a whole catalog of state course codes. However, if it's a general education dual credit course, there's only a handful of courses that should be utilized. We call these the 8,000 course codes, and there's a series of them that align with the post-secondary general education buckets, if you will. So basically, if you're looking at a dual credit course, you would look at how the post-secondary institution offering that course categorizes it within that general education framework, and that is what you would choose. So, you can usually kind of eyeball them and guess, but it's always good to go look at that course catalog at the post-secondary institution and just double check and make sure that you've got it right, how they're classifying it, and then apply the correct 8,000 course code. We do get a lot of questions with dual credit courses about what course code to use. If the course does not fall under one of those general education buckets, then you would just choose a state course code that most closely matches the description for the content of the course. However, if you're using something that's not an 8,000 course code, then that course is not going to count towards post-secondary readiness under the accountability system. So that's just something to note there. On the CTE side, there are no specially designated course codes for dual credit courses. So you're just going to select the CTE course code that most closely matches the content of the course, and those would pull in for accountability. The name of the course on dual credit courses is highly specified exactly how you need to do that. This is really important to match high school transcripts to college transcripts. That's why it's so specific, and it's so critical that you follow this convention exactly. So I've got a couple examples here of Biology 113 at WKU and Art 110 at EKU. The first four characters should be that abbreviation at the beginning. So with biology, BIOL, that's 1, 2, 3, 4. Art is only 3 letters, and so we're going to add an extra space. The fifth character must be a space, and so that fourth character in art, where we only have a 3-letter abbreviation, needs to be a space as well, just to keep everything lined up. And then you'll have your 3 digits, your numeric digits for the course number, and then the school abbreviation follows. There's also a DCS school drop down on here for dual credit courses. That's for dual credit scholarship. And you would just choose from the drop-down list post-secondary institution that's teaching the course. And if it's a non-participating school, then you would use the all zero code. And then I believe this is a typo that I made here. It should be DCS lab indicator, and that would be checked only if there's a lab associated with a course that receives a separate grade. If there's a lab with a course but it's all wrapped up in just one grade, then you don't need to check that. Note that if there is a separate course for the lab, then you will need to set up a separate course for the lab as well. Hold on, I'm just looking at my notes. I have a note to let you know. Hold on. I have a couple helpful reports for you that you may want to run. We strongly suggest utilizing these to help fix your errors. The QA courses is the first that I'll share with you. It's the most general, but it also can be run specifically just for advanced coursework. Basically, we put this one together to flag all kinds of potential errors. You will need to manually look at each one and determine if it is in fact an error, but it's going to help flag issues for you that need some attention, most likely. So we really strongly recommend that you run this one multiple times a year, just to make sure that any errors are caught. We know a lot of districts just kind of roll over their courses from the last year, and if a course code has been deprecated, for example, it may still be on a course even though it shouldn't. And this report will help you catch things like that. It'll help you catch things like where I mentioned earlier that it's critically important to have the difficulty level set for advanced coursework. If you've put an advanced coursework course codes on a course, but not set the difficulty level, it will flag that for you and say, hey, either you're using the wrong course code or you also need to set the difficulty level. So I really strongly recommend that everyone utilize this report, and again, multiple times a year if you've got changes coming from first semester, second semester, just to make sure that you catch all those. We also have a dual credit scholarship report. This one will help you with the DCS and the Work Ready scholarships that where you're sending data to KIA. The DCS report includes all 11th and 12th grade students taking any dual credit course, and the Work Ready scholarship report includes all 9th through 12th grade students taking CTE dual credit courses. On this one, there's a couple different options. The way this is set up, you'll have an error report, and that should be run to identify any missing data elements. KIA will reject students if they have missing data elements, so this is really important that you run this report and make sure that all errors are taken care of before submission. The goal with the error report is to have it come back with no data in it. If there's no data, that means that there's no errors. And then there's also a validation report. So that will create for you a sample of what the file would look like that will be submitted to KIA. And basically, this is your opportunity to look everything over, make sure that all the students that you would expect to see on there with their courses are actually there. And if anything seems like it's missing, it's likely a course setup issue. So that will kind of flag for you that you need to go back in and look at how some of those students' courses are set up. There's a final there's a submission file that can be run out of this report as well, and this is what actually goes to KIA. It's really critical that this file is not opened. Opening the file can actually mess up the formatting, and then it won't submit to KIA correctly. So that's why we have the validation report, so that you can see what that submission file is going to look like and give it a check without actually opening that submission file. We have an advanced courses and exams report, and this one is very useful for verifying data for the school report card, advanced courses and exams section. So this report, it has an aggregated and a detail view. So if you, you go in and you check your data on school report card and something doesn't look quite right, what you would do is come run this report, and likely you'll just want to dive into the details at that point and see how things are popping up and how we're getting those numbers. Everything on the school report card is pulling from Infinite Campus. That's where we get the data. So if courses are not set up correctly, then your data is not going to pull in correctly to school report card. So this report will help you identify where those issues are and figure out what needs to be fixed so that we can get your numbers correct on school report card. I'll just note here that, we do load the exam scores from College Board for AP, International Baccalaureate, and the Cambridge scores. All of those get loaded into Infinite Campus, but we can't do that until we get those from those organizations. So, we do our best to get all of that exam data in prior to the release for schools to start reviewing their school report card data, but we can always get it in there in time. So this report will really help you find all of that information that you need and check for any errors. And then I have just one last report for you. It's the school profile courses. So on the school profile section of the school report card, we report what courses are offered for different program areas: health education and physical education, career and technical education, visual and performing arts, and world languages. And again, all of this course information, the number of students taking these courses, pulls from Infinite Campus. So we always recommend that this report be run. So like school report card will be for the 22-23 school year this year. And so hopefully this report was run last year to make sure that everything was correct for this year. You'll be running this report this year on the 23-24 school year for next year's school report card. It can be difficult to go back and fix errors with course setup once the school year is closed. So we try to give lots of reminders to run these during the current school year so that we can address any issues before the next school report card season comes up. I do have some contact information on here for myself and for Holly, my counterpart in CTE. If you have any questions about courses, course setup, please feel free to contact either of us. There's also a course codes at education.ky.gov address. And Dee Dee, are there any questions that have come in?
There are some questions. We may have to answer them, some of them in the actual Go Soapbox application, but we'll get through what we can. So for our new 8-8 program, do we use virtual for the course type until the attendance-based online virtual type is added into campus? And you might have to get Josh to help with that one too.
Yeah, I would say That's tricky. We haven't really thought about what to do in that interim. What we really want you to do is when that type becomes available, if that's the method you're going to use for attendance tracking and funding, that you just make sure once that's available, and we're hoping it'll be in the next couple of months, that you would just go in and set it up that way at that time.
I am on
I'll
the call if you need me.
Oh, yes, Josh, what would you like people to do in the interim? Thank you so much.
You're welcome. So just keep in mind you can mark virtual, but that attendance checkbox is still going to be checked. So that's going to override the funding of everything because it's going to be seat time attendance. The way if you're doing it the A8 and you're wanting that seat time attendance with the blended learning groups.
So Josh, should they just leave the type blank until we get the new type in and check?
I would
attendance?
just because it's going to be a heavy lift putting all those virtuals in there and then turn around going back and putting the virtual attendance on.
Perfect. Thanks for that question and thanks for your help, Josh.